And when I came into the workplace, I had £35,000 of student loan debt and I was sleeping on a futon.
Welcome to the New Leaf podcast. I'm back again. It's Sam Oakes from the Financial Planner Life, and I'm stepping in to host a fantastic episode with Matthew Abouzeid.
And then when I joined Vanguard, I learned about investment strategy that worked, and I married the two together.
He has a 15-year career with Vanguard, and he's making the transition into financial planning.
And I went through that myself personally, and I went from £35,000 of debt to, for the first time in my life, having a sense of financial security and financial freedom. So I'd kind of lived that journey, and I spent a lot of time working with institutional investors and helping sovereign wealth funds of already rich countries get slightly richer. You get to a point where you think, is this the impact I want to have? Did quite a lot of soul searching, and that's really where it all started. I couldn't be more proud to be part of the financial planning community.
So Matt, thank you for joining me today on the New Leaf podcast. I'm a special host today. We're in here filming for their brand new podcast, which is absolutely fantastic, all about people joining New Leaf as a network, as a self-employed financial planner. I mean, you've got a fantastic story. You can't move on LinkedIn this week for the post that you put out that's got nearly 400 likes and about 300 engagements. And strangely, we had a conversation last week.
We did.
About your journey and about your transition from Vanguard into financial planning. And I was absolutely blown away by your vision. So we had to get you on the podcast today to hear about your journey. So let's kick things off. Tell us why you're leaving Vanguard, what you were doing at Vanguard, what your history was like there, and why you're moving into financial planning as an IFA.
Definitely. Well, thank you for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure to be here chatting to you, Sam. So delighted to be here.
You're welcome.
Should we talk a bit about what I was doing, and then that will bring us to the why, and then we'll sort of go from there. So I was at Vanguard for 15 years. I joined in 2010. I'll take you back because that was a really special time in the industry. That was pre-RDR, so Retail Distribution Review. So Vanguard had just come into the market and had aspirations of building an international business. At the time, it was the biggest asset manager in America, but had very little outside that. So I came into the business 2010. I was employee number 19. There was a small group of us in a really small office on Cannon Street. And we were just sort of building the business from scratch. There was no assets, there were no clients, there was advisors in the market still sort of taking commissions, selling products. The two main platforms at the time, in fact, the three main platforms at the time were Scandia, Co-Funds, Funds Network. And the typical model for an advisor was recommend a fund, get paid commission, move on to a new client, recommend a fund, take the commission. It just needed a never-ending conveyor belt of clients. And we came into the market, and I say it was a special time because for us it wasn't just about building assets. It was about sort of changing the market, changing investments and the way advice was done. Because in the States already there had been a big move to holistic, proper financial planning. So that was an amazing time for me, coming into the business, employee number 19, going all over the UK, working with advisors to say, look, there's a better way to work with clients that is better for them. You can give them better long-term outcomes if you work with them together, over a period of time doing full financial planning. So that was great. And then RDR came in and it started to change quite quickly. So I was working with financial advisors for about 6 years, both sort of pre-Retail Distribution Review and after, and really sort of bringing insights from the US, because there were some amazing businesses out there already who were doing really good quality financial planning. So we're bringing the insights over, working with financial planners, and it was just the most incredible place to be, this amazing asset manager, this incredible team doing great work in the industry and seeing these businesses change. I did that for about 6 years, and then I started to move around in distribution. I spent my 15 years in Vanguard in distribution. I then started to work with the wealth managers. So I went from working with advisors where you were working with some of the most amazing entrepreneurial people that I'd ever met, owner-led businesses. And then I started working with the big national wealth managers. And I spent 5 years in that circuit. So I know a lot of those businesses really well, and how the businesses work and how they think about investments. And then around 2020, I started working more into the wholesale market. So global private banks, institutional investors, and was working with some sort of slightly more complex investors, and spent a number of years there. So that's kind of like a whistle-stop tour of my Vanguard career, but real privilege to have worked in that business. And I would just always look back with really fond memories, and I just cannot speak highly enough of that business. Really purpose-led. And the mission was always about one thing: make investing more fair, more client-aligned, more value to investors, which is the phrase that Vanguard uses now. So it was a great business to be in, but with a great purpose as well. So amazing 15 years. And then got to a point in my career where I really felt that I wanted to do something again that could really have impact, like it did earlier on in my career around that 2010 to 2012 era. And I started to really just sort of sit down and think, like, where do I want to spend the next 15, 20 years of my career, and doing what and with who? And where can I really have impact? And I'd seen and worked with so many financial advice businesses early on, and I see the impact that they had had on their clients. And I'd also been through it myself personally. I left university with £35,000 of debt. And when I came into the workplace, I had £35,000 of student loan debt, and I was sleeping on a futon. And when I was 24, I did my financial planning exams. And then when I joined Vanguard, I learned about investment strategy that worked, and I married the two together. And I really I had these amazing mentors as well that they had a huge impact on me. And they were saying things to me like, Matt, save early, save often, save as much as you can. They were not about going out and splurging money on expensive cars and things. So they were these amazing role models that taught me these behaviors. And I went through that myself personally. And I went from £35,000 of debt to, for the first time in my life, having a sense of financial security and financial freedom. So I'd kind of lived that journey that clients of financial advisors have been on. And I'd seen the impact that advisors had had on people, and also been through that myself. And as I started to sort of think about what do I want to do with my career next, that was a real key factor in, I want to be closer to the client. And I spent a lot of time working with institutional investors and helping sovereign wealth funds of already rich countries get slightly richer. You get to a point where you think, is this the impact I want to have? Or do I want to be elsewhere in the market? And so I really started to think long and hard. And this was quite a while ago, and did quite a lot of soul searching. And that's really where it all started.
I love it. Fantastic. Thanks so much for that overview. I love as well that you've had that kind of 15 years of also looking at the financial planning profession as a whole.
Yeah.
Right. I've done the same. I had a recruitment business for 15 years, and all I did was recruit into financial planning. So I could always see the good, the bad, and the ugly in the different types of firms that were in it and how they were doing it. I was always very motivated and enjoyed talking to the founders. I always found founder stories really, really interesting, because it's their heart, it's their blood, it's their soul that's going into this business of theirs. And we've had the privilege of sitting down and talking about your new business venture. And we'll get onto the fact you joined New Leaf and how fantastic New Leaf are.
Absolutely.
A little bit later on. But tell us about the business that you're building now within financial planning, and what niche have you chosen, and why have you fallen on that niche?
Yeah, so we're going to work with entrepreneurs. We're owner-led, we're founder-focused. We sat down, and once we'd made the decision of where do we want to be in the market, we'd worked for an asset manager for 15 years, big global asset manager. I'd worked in every part of every nook and cranny of the advice market, advisors and wealth managers, global banks, institutional investors. We sat down, we realized that we want to run our own financial planning business. That's what we want to be. We want to be a financial advisor. We don't want to be a wealth manager. We don't want to be a discretionary portfolio manager. We want to do good quality financial planning. That's where the impact is. That's where the life-changing impact is. It's not just about portfolio management. It's about working holistically with clients, really understanding them, where they are, where they want to be, how can we help them get there. So that was the starting point. And then you start to think, well, who do we want to help? And then you start to do some, you sit there and you're asking yourself questions. Who do we want to work with? Do we really understand their problems? And if so, how can we help them? And for us, entrepreneurs was an obvious one, because we have had countless experiences with friends and family who have been on that journey. And I've witnessed it up close so many times with family members who have built businesses and sold businesses and gone through these really difficult earn-out periods and gone through that post-sale piece where some of them, it's like a loss.
This is what
It's like a bereavement.
I went through it myself. It's like a post-sale depression.
Yeah, it's like
a piece of you died.
Yeah,
yeah.
And you have this grand moment of I've made it, and the money element, but the status of somebody wanted to buy my business, and the recognition, but then the slump afterwards. So we really started to sit down and think about, like, who do we really, really want to work with? Do we really understand them? Can we have an impact? That's the number one most important thing. Is the impact that we want to have on the clients that we work with. So we sat down and we were discussing entrepreneurs and what do we know about entrepreneurs? What are their key issues? Do we really understand what those issues are? Do we think that we can really help them? Can we add value? And then we started to go out and talk to entrepreneurs, friends, family, and we would sit down and we would say to them, can we talk to you? Can we interview you? We want to do some market research. Many of them, we knew their story already because we'd been involved in it personally for years, 5 years, 10 years, 8 years, 12 years. Some of them talking to me, confiding, look, I know you work in financial services. Can I talk to you about my money? And then you get involved in not just the money talk, but the business talk, because the two are so intertwined. So we went out and we were talking to dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs, and it was just really clear to us that that's what we know. They're the people that we know. Outside of our immediate role in asset management, who do we know best? Entrepreneurs, and that's where you can have impact, because you know the journey they go on, and you can spot the blind spots that they can't necessarily see themselves. And when you talk to so many entrepreneurs and you see the patterns, when they're scaling and the earn-out period and once they've sold, that's where I think you can really have.
Talk to me about those blind spots then. You said you've seen those blind spots. Where do you think, as a financial planning business, you can have the biggest impact? How early is it in their journey? Do you want to get
as early
involved?
as possible? That's the number one message to any entrepreneur. Just start now. Often the mistakes are they leave it too late. It's often very close to the sale or at point of sale. They think, I should speak to a financial advisor. When you look at an entrepreneur, especially coming from asset management, what you see is a one-stock portfolio. And with entrepreneurs, in almost all cases, a huge amount of their wealth is tied up in one asset, the business. And whilst that makes sense initially, you pour everything into it, your energy and your emotion and your time and your money, and you remortgage the house and everything goes into it. Whilst at the beginning that totally makes sense, it doesn't make sense for it to remain that way. So that's a common pitfall with entrepreneurs, is to the extent that the business doesn't need money and you can take money out, take it out and diversify, build a personal buffer, build personal financial security. That will lead to personal financial freedom. And the knock-on effects of that down the track are immense. When you come to think about selling, that freedom will mean you can sell on your terms when you want, at a time that suits you, to a buyer that really suits you and your values. You don't have to take any deal that's put on the table in front of you. Every earn-out package is totally different. The KPIs, the term, what's up front, what's on the table. Every earn-out is a trip to the casino table. It really is. The more people we interviewed and the more people we spoke to about their earn-out, how did it go? Everyone is so different. KPIs that you realise are slightly out of your control, and the market around you changes, and the new owner comes in. You're now an employee, and these new values and cultures are put onto the business and your clients. So early on, being a one-stock portfolio, fine. Try and do something about that as soon as possible. Build personal financial security. where we were talking to entrepreneurs who are investing outside of the business, often they're investing in their own sector because that's what they know and love. So you work in hotels, you have hotels on the side of the business. You work in mining, you have mining stocks on the side of the business. It's like, whoa, you need to diversify. You have huge concentrated wealth inside the business, outside of the business. Diversification is your best friend. We talk about that all the time in asset management and in financial planning. Never was there more truer word said than with entrepreneurs is go from a one stock portfolio to a 10,000 stock portfolio. So diversification is key, but also just start as soon as possible. The sooner you start, the better off you'll be when it comes to thinking about exit. Often with a lot of entrepreneurs as well, they're not really sure what the business is worth. Yeah, it's very difficult to price an illiquid asset long into the future, and you're not really sure when you might sell. It could be 5 years, it could be 7 years. Pricing a publicly traded stock like Microsoft, you ask 10 different people, you get 10 different prices. If I asked you to price your business today at a point in the future that wasn't clear, it'd be very difficult. So we talk about the missing million, which is that you may not hit the number that you need to live the life that you want to live. The sooner you engage with your personal financial planning, the higher the probability that you'll have enough. And that's really important because, you only get one shot at doing it and you can't go back and start 7 years ago. So the sooner you get going, the better the chances that you'll hit the number in total, including the business and the personal wealth you build on the side, that will give you all the resources you need to live the life that you want to live.
I love it. Do you see financial planning as a well-being proposition?
Yeah, definitely. I think our approach to it definitely is. It's not just about running money. It's not just about returns. It's not just about spreadsheets. It's, especially when you're working with entrepreneurs, it's about giving them freedom and options, because every entrepreneur has such a different relationship with the business. Some want to sell, some don't. Some sell the business. We had a guy we interviewed. He said, even now, he sold his business 8 years ago. He said to me, Matt, I wish I had just stayed in it for another 3 years. I just wish I'd held on to it. But he sold it because he needed the money. He didn't engage in financial planning at all until the point of sale. And that for me is a well-being conversation, which is, look, you're in retirement. You should be living your life and having a great time, but you're still living with regret. That's much more than about pick portfolio A over portfolio B, or, fund A or fund B. It's about, look, you didn't engage early enough. If you had, you could have had a very different road, and that could have had a very different impact on your overall well-being. So I 100% see financial planning as a well-being. And it is really intertwined in, look, can we work with you early on to give you freedom in choices, and with that freedom and choice will be, hopefully a very different path that you could take.
So you've been thinking about this for quite some time. You've been looking at the market that you want to work in, dare I say it, a niche. And I think choosing a niche is a brave thing to do. I'm a massive fan of the Key Person of Influence book. That's what I read, Daniel Priestley, and that's how I kind of modeled my financial planner life on, was to become a key person of influence within the financial planning space for talent attraction. I feel like I've worked the system and it's worked quite well for me. So it sounds like you've picked a niche. Now it's, how can I become a key person of influence within the niche of entrepreneurs? You've got the fantastic brand name And Together.
Thank you.
Which I absolutely love, which sums up everything that you've just been telling me. It is a together journey.
It is. That's the name, yeah.
Which I think is absolutely spot on. Now, you've also, like we touched on this, both of us have had a really good understanding of the financial planning profession pre and post RDR. Now, you must have done your due diligence. You're sitting there at Vanguard, you're thinking, I'm going to set up this business. You must be doing your due diligence out there and looking around at the market and thinking, where am I going to go? Am I going to go directly authorized? Am I going to go employed? Am I going to be in AR, networks? There's quite a choice out there.
Yeah.
But you fell upon New Leaf.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about that journey and how you decided to pull the trigger on New Leaf.
Yeah. So we started with a blank canvas, but we had 20 years of experience of being in the market and every part of the market. And we'd worked with so many I'd personally worked with so many different types of financial planning businesses and wealth managers and big banks and discretionary and advisory. And so I'd seen everything up front firsthand, and also been behind the curtain and worked really closely with people on their manufacturing and proposition and all sorts of things. So I'd been really privileged to have had that experience. Even with that, when we started to build, because you come out and you think, right, the process of the journey for us is we have this idea, get your key people in, and who's the initial team. And then what really is the dream? You revisit the idea. Who are we going to serve and why, and how are we going to serve them? And then it's, how do we build this thing? So we've actually got to build it with pipes and infrastructure and platforms and regulation, and we need a relationship with the FCA, and how are we actually going to do this? So we'd had 20 years of experience, but in a way at that point, you just feel like we have to go back into the market and look at absolutely everything, which is what we did. And we spoke to so many people, and different networks, and we looked at these nationals, and nothing was off the table, because doing the diligence was really important, because the North Star is to give our clients the best possible outcomes, no compromise. So let's look at everyone. Even though we would have had experiences with them, let's just put everything on the table, do a really thorough job. So we went out, we talked to loads and loads of different companies. We looked at going directly authorized. We decided that we wanted to be part of a network. And the reason for doing that is it's incredibly onerous having a direct relationship with the regulator. And that would really slow us down in terms of what we want to do initially. We want to be in the market. We want to be having impact with our clients, and we want to be helping as many different entrepreneurs as possible. That's the goal, which is I have the maximum impact on you as an entrepreneur. We want to be working with as many as possible. Do I want to be spending half my week dealing with the regulator and doing that side of things? Not really. So we had lengthy discussions about how to build it. It felt really clear to me that we would not want a relationship with the FCA, and that we would want to be part of a network. So we started speaking to all the networks. We spoke to probably about 10. We spoke to New Leaf. I remember my first conversation with Mark. Within probably 5 minutes, my heart was, I want to work with New Leaf. My head is, okay, Matt, you've got to do the diligence. But I was speaking to Mark, and I just thought, I love the sound of New Leaf. I love Mark. I love the culture. They're a family. I'd had in my own personal life direct experience with a family business. I think that's an incredibly special thing. And with it brings an incredibly special culture. So I was really interested because of my own experience of a family business for many, many, many years. I just thought, wow, this is really, really different. So spoke to Mark, we had an hour. What was really apparent from the get-go, they were really supportive of us. They really backed us early on. Some networks we spoke to, it was much more about what are the numbers, what turnover are you going to do year one, what profit. It was just really, and you could tell, some of these firms are backed by private equity, and it's really, what's the top line, what's the bottom line? You speak to New Leaf, it's much more about what are you trying to achieve and what do you need? How can we help you be brilliant? Is it mentoring? Is it advice? Is it the process? Is it operations? Is it paraplanning? Do you need a specialist with protection? So it was a different approach, and it just really stood out. So we went back into the market. We were doing all of our diligence. So, right, put my head back into gear now. We've got to just look at this objectively. And really, the more we got to know New Leaf, the overall package is just outstanding. The support that they give you, especially as a startup, it's all there. If you need a mentor, or if you need somebody to help you with whatever it is, it could be paraplanning, it could be somebody who's an expert on tax and trusts, and they just find that they have the time. It's not, we'll book in a meeting 3 weeks from now at 2. It's, just message me, we'll talk tomorrow. So the culture of that business and the way it operates is very different to a lot of people we spoke to. So the support is extensive and the expertise is deep, but the approach of delivery is just really refreshing.
I love it. You've got in a lot of businesses, it's employee value proposition. I think at New Leaf it's member value proposition. When we talk about entrepreneurs, you like working with founders and entrepreneurs. I think a network as well as an ecosystem that creates intrapreneurs that can run their own business. So I love the word intrapreneur, and I used to say that a lot with people who are employed in businesses, but I'm seeing it more in the networks. The values and purpose-based leadership within New Leaf, and I'm not just saying this because I'm working with them on their podcast and I'm on it right now, it is second to none.
Yeah.
They are genuinely living the values that they preach, quite literally.
Yeah.
Mark's a pastor, quite literally. And I remember I had a conversation with Mark when I first met him a few years back, and it was a very powerful conversation. And today I'm sitting here, hosting their podcast. So they're a very interesting and intriguing company. And the more stories that I've heard through the New Leaf podcast, I can see why people are saying, thank God we didn't go directly authorized.
Yeah.
I had somebody on here a couple of days ago, did a host episode, 90 million nearly within 4 months that she's moved across.
Incredible.
And the support that she's had from doing that, which was she fell upon it almost.
Yeah.
The ability to build the team, but just have that infrastructure around it that kept her straight and narrow. Yeah. She's just like, I just don't know how I would have done that on my own.
Yeah. I can understand why people would be hesitant to go with a network, and they just feel that they're boxed in or some of their freedoms are curbed, and that's fine. And in some cases that has to be done. What we found with New Leaf is they've been so supportive in terms of us wanting to build our vision. And we said, look, being independent, that's a red line. That's for us. We've considered restricted. That for us is a non-negotiable. And we talked about some of our other philosophies, our fee philosophy. We thought long and hard, what do we want to charge and why? What do we think about fees before what are we going to charge? What's the investment philosophy? And a whole bunch of other stuff. And New Leaf, they listen. They really listen. The leadership there is outstanding because it's not computer says yes, computer says no. They will work with you to help you bring your vision to life. So in that regard, they've been an incredible business partner because number one, the culture there is incredible. Their phrase is decide to be happy. That's the first thing. You work with people there, it's the spirit that they bring to the conversation. It's not just about show me the numbers. When you come out of a big corporation like Vanguard and you have a job and a regular paycheck, there's a lot and you set up a business, there's a lot of moments where you think, oh, don't look down, this is scary. And you have days where you doubt yourself and you have moments of fear. When you have conversations with Mark, Dan, Sam, and they're really encouraging you and supporting you, that lifts you up. And some of the firms we spoke to, it was a very different conversation. It was a bit more, show us the numbers. So I think the culture is really, really great, and that's something that they should be proud of, and that's something that we totally bought into.
Brilliant. Look, as a new business and as somebody just entering the profession now, you mentioned it was a non-negotiable in respect of going restricted and you had to go IFA. Just tell us why, with your experience and your knowledge and what you've learned over the years.
Yeah.
Why was IFA so important? We're going to finish on this question, I think.
Yeah. So the starting point for us is always the same. How do we deliver the best outcomes to the client? And that really is the North Star. That is just the non-negotiable. That's the one thing that we learn in asset management and working for Vanguard. Vanguard is owned by the clients, right? So that was always the starting point with every conversation. It was never about sales, marketing, assets, profit. It was always about how do we deliver the best. The one thing that we've learned is go with that. Don't waver from that. Not an inch, not a millimeter. Start with that. How do we deliver the very, very best to the client? And work back from there. So that has determined everything that we've decided. And we looked at independent restricted. For us, independent is not just about I have more choice. It's a mindset which is I work for you. I don't work for a manufacturer. I don't work for a national. I work for you, the client. And my only incentive is to see you succeed. So it's much more about mindset and alignment than anything else. Yes, you have more choice in the market. Restricted, they have to use from a curated list. And often these days, that curated list is manufactured by whoever's behind it. and that manufactured product is cleverly designed to benefit the manufacturer very neatly. And so independence, yes, more choice is great, but it's about alignment. That's the number one thing, being aligned to the client. And when you have that alignment, I can look you in the eye and say, I'm here to give you the very best. And, you know, we don't compromise on that ever. So it's very much about that.
It's refreshing to hear that, because a lot of people say independence dead. And it's alive and well with a brand new founder of a financial planning business. So that's really exciting to hear. Look, the podcast is called the New Leaf Podcast, and it's all about turning over a new leaf within financial planning. So what's the leaf that you're turning over?
So a big change for us. For me in particular, 20 years in the industry, 15 years in the global asset manager, and then coming out and starting a business from scratch, blank canvas, starting the business from scratch. So very much end of an era, start of something really new. For us, it's really the way we think of ourselves is a purpose-driven business that happens to be a financial planner. And our purpose is to be out there helping entrepreneurs. And we'll help them with their personal finances, but it's much more than that. So it's your question on well-being. That's why for us, holistic financial planning was the route to go. It wasn't about becoming a discretionary portfolio manager, and it was really about working holistically with clients, their values, their goals, their family, their business. All these things are intertwined. And so it's about now being part of that community, really focusing on entrepreneurs and how we can have the biggest impact to help them. So that's the new leaf.
Well, I love it. Listen, it's been absolutely amazing getting to know you. It's like the universe has put you in front of us today. Speaking to you last week, Mark's obviously got you on board. Everybody's really excited about you and your journey. And from a financial planner life perspective, I love hearing about new people enter the profession. So we're going to stay really close with you. Just want to hear about your journey, how you're getting on at New Leaf. And I've got a few people in mind that I think should join your business, but I'm going to talk to you about.
Well, thank you for having me on. Look, I want to end by saying, I couldn't be more proud to be part of the financial planning community. I've been involved in it early in my career. I was honestly one of the fondest parts of my career working with financial advisors 2010 to 2016. I'm so glad to be part of the community now. And I can't wait to be an active part of the community, to contribute positively to financial planning, and just to continue to show everyone how transformative financial planning can be. And that's the and part of the and together, which is if you take a client and a financial planner who really gets it, it's transformational. And I know that because I've lived through it myself. So really proud to be part of the community, and just can't wait to get going.
Right, speaking on behalf of everybody, welcome. So
thank you.